She was a highly trained soldier who was feared for her lethal skills. One night, gangsters sexually assaulted her sister and left her to die, not knowing she would hunt them down to bury them with her own hands on that particular day. Welcome back to... I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. The story kicks off in war-torn Syria, where Clara, an interpreter for the French military, is on a mission to catch a suspected terrorist. Her team is tracking the suspect, and while her colleague is busy with a bad cop routine on a female hostage, Clara manages to get the info without all the theatrics.
Où est-il?
She passes the intel to her commanding officer, who jumps into action. As Clara watches from a safe spot nearby, the troops storm the building, and soon enough they've got the guy. Something doesn't sit right with Clara, though, so she heads over to the building, where the soldiers are holding the man and his young son. Suddenly, bullets start raining down from another building. The soldiers manage to eliminate the shooter, and they're about to take the kid to safety when the father yells, "Do it! God will forgive you!" Clara's eyes go wide as she realizes the little boy has a bomb strapped to him. But it's too late. The bomb goes off, throwing Clara backward like she's in a slow-motion action scene she never signed up for. Back in France, Clara is dealing with some serious PTSD and migraines. Her first stop is to hang out with her sister, Tanya, where she tries to explain her situation. She heads home to their super happy mom, Maria, who clearly missed having her two girls under one roof. Before Clara knows it, she's been reassigned to a counterterrorism unit called Operation Sentinel.
Bonjour, adjudant.
Bonjour.
Je suis lieutenant Jobert, Eric.
And she's on meds to manage her trauma. But let's be honest, Operation Chill and Take a Nap sounds more like what she needs at this point. On her first patrol, Clara spots an abandoned backpack, and her radar starts pinging, but it's a false alarm. Shortly after, she comes across a couple in a heated argument. Clara tries to calm the man down, but he's not having it, so she takes him down, maybe a little too enthusiastically. Her teammates have to pull her off, probably thinking, note to self, don't get Clara angry. That night, she can't sleep, jumping awake in a cold sweat, thinking she's back in Syria. And oh boy, the flashbacks keep piling on. On another patrol, she sees a little kid holding out his arms like the boy in Syria. Immediately, she gets hit with a migraine and ducks into the restroom to pop some meds, but she's running low. One thing leads to another, and she's soon scoring meds on the black market. Now, that's one way to liven up her day job. In an attempt to lift Clara's spirits, Tanya convinces her to go clubbing. Their mom, Maria, is so thrilled her daughters are bonding again, she practically throws them out the door. At the club, Tanya helps Clara loosen up, and they actually start enjoying themselves. Tanya then spots some rich Russian dudes in the VIP section and decides to make friends, leaving Clara on the dance floor. Just as Clara is wondering if dancing solo is her destiny, a woman comes up and they start dancing, eventually getting a little, let's say, closer than close. Not long after, Clara is out on patrol when she sees some cops searching a group of young guys. She notices one guy acting suspiciously nearby and starts toward him. The guy catches her eye and takes off like he's training for the Olympics. She catches up, only to find out he's her drug dealer, and in a plot twist, she lets him go. Just when she thinks her patrol's winding down, she gets an urgent call to rush to the hospital. Turns out, Tanya's been brutally assaulted and is now in a coma. Clara breaks down, trying to hold it together for her sister. Refusing to sit back, Clara heads to the club, demanding to see footage from the night of Tanya's attack. She spots Tanya talking to a man, snaps a photo of him, and heads out, probably wondering why all the wrong guys keep showing up. When she's not on duty, she spends most of her time by Tanya's bedside at the hospital, silently rooting for her sister to wake up. Determined to find answers, Clara eventually shows the photo to Detective Mueller, who identifies the guy as Ivan Katnikov, son of a rich Russian tycoon. The catch: Yvonne and his dad have diplomatic immunity. Yeah, they're like the real-life, get-out-of-jail-free card holders. Mueller wants to wait until Tanya wakes up, but Clara is not the wait-and-see type. She snoops on Yvonne's Instagram, where, of course, he's showing off the location of his dad's villa. Social media, helping people stalk rich kids since forever. She heads over to the villa, where Yvonne is living his best life, taking selfies like he's auditioning for an influencer role. Clara's blood boils, but she holds it together and returns to the hospital. Sitting with her mom by Tanya's side, they softly sing to her, urging her to come back to them. Clara might not have all the answers, but she's not giving up on Tanya, and she's definitely not letting Yvonne get away scot-free. The next day, Clara's at a marathon when she notices a woman near the Russian compound. She slips inside, sneaks up to a nearby building, and uses her scope to check things out. Before she can spot anything, though, a colleague takes her weapon and lectures her about setting a bad example for the new recruits. Apparently, getting high doesn't make for good role model behavior. That night, Clara returns to the club, where she spots Yvonne heading to the men's room and follows him. She corners him, pulls a knife, and demands answers about her sister. Yvonne, of course, denies everything, claiming he had nothing to do with it. But just as things get heated, his guards rush in, and Yvonne escapes. Clara fights off the guards, trading punches and kicks until she finally takes them down, only for the club staff to toss her out. Clara heads back to the hospital and sits by her sister's side, steeling herself for what's next. She's set on getting revenge and sneaks a gun from the armory at work. She goes back to the Russian compound, breaks in, and cautiously searches the building. Just as she thinks it's all clear, she's ambushed and knocked out. When she comes to, she's being dunked underwater, only to come face to face with Leonid, Yvonne's father. Leonid jokes about hiring her as his bodyguard, clearly having a twisted sense of humor. Then he claims Yvonne had nothing to do with Tanya, revealing that Yvonne's not even interested in women. Instead, it was Leonid himself who assaulted her after she drank and swam in his pool. Before he leaves, Leonid instructs his guards to finish Clara off, but she fights back and barely manages to escape. A few days later, Clara's relieved to get a call that Tanya's out of her coma. She rushes to the hospital, only for Tanya to confess that she feels responsible for what happened and refuses to press charges to avoid public scrutiny. Clara tries convincing her to take action, but Tanya just wants to rest. Frustrated, Clara steps out for coffee and sees on the news that Leonid is planning to head back to Russia. As she returns to Tanya's room, she notices a nurse acting nervously, and moments later, Tanya suddenly has an embolism. Sensing foul play, Clara chases the nurse down to the basement, where they engage in a brutal fight. Eventually, Clara overpowers her, and after a tense struggle, she manages to take the nurse down before hiding as detectives arrive to investigate. Now more determined than ever, Clara hatches a plan. She rents a van, returns to her base, and smoothly sweet-talks her way into the armory. Once inside, she holds up the lone guard and demands he loads a bag with weapons, making sure he ties himself up afterward. With her new gear, Clara heads back to the Russian compound, but her mother calls, begging her to come home. Detective Mueller is there too, urging Clara to stand down, promising that Leonid will face justice. Clara refuses, insisting that Leonid deserves to pay for what he's done. She suits up in tactical gear and prepares to go in, using the rooftops to avoid a patrol. She breaks in, ambushes a guard, and efficiently takes down a few more before she's suddenly shot. Despite the injury, she presses on, listening in on the guard's radio chatter until she hears Leonid begging for an evacuation. Tracking his location, Clara finds Leonid cowering in a corner. She holds him at gunpoint, anger and pain evident in her eyes as he tries to bribe her. Disgusted, she kicks him over a railing, watching as he falls. Just as she thinks it's over, Yvonne sneaks up and stabs her, but Clara manages to shoot him dead before collapsing. As a SWAT team closes in on the building, Clara drags herself away, narrowly escaping capture. Turns out, Leonid survives the fall and is taken to Dubai to recover. Months later, he's living it up in a luxury hotel, relaxing by the pool. He calls for room service, and a maid enters, but it's Clara, hiding in plain sight. She approaches him and, without a word, grabs a fork and stabs him in the jugular, finally ending him. Quietly, Clara slips out of Dubai and returns to France, where she spots Tanya with friends, looking happy and healthy. Satisfied that her sister's okay, Clara slips away, now a wanted fugitive but content that she got her revenge.